Okay, so today we're diving deep into AGI.
Artificial general intelligence.
Right, AGI.
Yeah.
And looking at this paper that's arguing that the whole push for AGI, it's not just like this neutral thing where we're pursuing technological progress.
Yeah,
It's actually rooted in eugenics.
that's exactly right.
Yeah.
The paper argues that the way we even define and talk about AGI is shaped by this desire to create a superior intelligence.
It's like a better human
Exactly, but like in machine form.
in machine form. Okay.
Yeah.
So I think when a lot of people think about AGI,
Yeah.
they picture like, some super intelligent computer that can
Right.
just like think circles around us.
Yeah.
But this paper points out something that I thought was really interesting,
Okay.
which is that even the experts can't seem to agree
Right.
on what AGI actually is.
Exactly. The paper goes into all these different definitions
Great.
of AGI that are out there. You have groups like OpenAI who describe it as highly autonomous systems that outperform humans at most economically valuable work.
Okay.
Others talk about it as like a universal algorithm or a machine that can learn and act in any environment.
Okay. So there's all these.
It's almost like everyone's pointing at this like blurry shape in the distance and calling it AGI, but nobody can really agree on what it is they're seeing.
Exactly. And that's a major red flag.
Yeah.
Because, if we can't even define what AGI is,
Right.
how can we test it? How can we be sure it's safe?
It's like we're trying to build a bridge without knowing how much weight it needs to support or even where it's supposed to go.
Exactly.
And this paper's arguing that this lack of a clear definition, it's not just like a technical oversight or, something we haven't gotten around to yet. It's actually tied to this historical baggage of the eugenics movement.
Yeah.
It's like these ideas about creating a better human.
Whether it's through, selective breeding in the past or now through artificial intelligence, they're kind of intertwined.
They're very much connected.
Yeah, that's a fascinating connection.
Yeah.
So how does the paper make this link between AGI and the eugenics movement?
Okay, so...
I mean, weren't those ideas like debunked decades ago?
So the paper points out that the first wave of eugenics, with its horrific forced sterilization programs and things like that, that was largely rejected.
Yeah.
But what emerged in the late 20th century was this second wave of eugenics that focused more on individual choice and using technologies like genetic engineering for human enhancement.
So it's like eugenics 2.0, but with a high-tech makeover.
Exactly. And what's driving this second wave, according to the paper, is a cluster of ideologies they call the TESCREAL bundle.
The TESCREAL bundle. Okay.
Yeah, it sounds complicated, but it's basically a group of interconnected beliefs like transhumanism, singularitarianism, effective altruism, all centered around using technology to radically improve humanity.
Okay, so paint me a picture here.
Okay.
Like, what are we talking about?
So imagine a group of people who believe technology can help us transcend our human limitations, overcome death, even merge with machines.
Wow.
They see AGI as the key to unlocking this utopian future where diseases are eradicated, resources are abundant, humans become super intelligent beings.
It sounds like something straight out of a sci-fi novel.
It does, right.
Yeah.
But what's fascinating is that these ideas aren't just confined to like fringe groups. They've actually permeated the mainstream AI community.
Really?
Yeah, and the paper highlights specific individuals in the AGI field who are deeply embedded in these TESCREAL communities.
So who are these people?
Okay, so...
And what kind of influence are they having on the development of AGI?
So, for example, you have Ben Goertzel, a well-known figure in the field, a self-described cosmist.
Okay.
He co-authored the first book on AGI.
Wow.
Then you have Shane Legg.
Okay.
One of the co-founders of DeepMind.
Right, DeepMind.
Yeah, and his early work on defining intelligence actually drew heavily on the work of eugenicists.
Wow.
Like Linda Gottfriedson, who is known for her controversial views on race and IQ.
So that's a pretty direct link to eugenics.
Absolutely.
It's not just these lesser-known figures.
Yeah.
The paper also talks about Nick Bostrom.
Right.
A philosopher.
Yes.
Whose book, Superintelligence, has become almost like a Bible
You could say that.
for the AGI movement.
Yeah.
So Bostrom's work.
It's been incredibly influential, especially among tech leaders like Elon Musk and Peter Thiel.
Okay.
He argues that we need to develop aligned AGI before someone else creates a misaligned AI that could pose an existential threat to humanity.
So it's this fear of an AI apocalypse that's driving a lot of the investment in AGI research.
Exactly. And the paper suggests that this fear, coupled with the utopian promises of the TESCREAL bundle, has created this really powerful narrative that's actually obscuring the very real harms.
So they're focusing on this hypothetical future threat to distract from problems that are happening right now.
That's one of the key points the paper raises. It seems this framing of AGI as both a potential savior and a potential destroyer is being used to justify a lot of questionable practices.
So tell me more about these harms that the paper talks about.
Sure.
What are some of the real-world consequences of this kind of unchecked pursuit of AGI?
So, well, for one, there's the whole issue of worker exploitation. The paper talks about how OpenAI hired Kenyan workers to label toxic content. And these workers are getting paid these incredibly low wages to basically sift through the darkest corners of the internet.
Oh, my gosh.
Exposed to all sorts of disturbing material. And they end up suffering mental trauma as a result.
That's heartbreaking to think about those workers going through that. While the company's executives are talking about, saving the world with AGI.
Exactly. And it's not just the workers who are being harmed. The paper also talks about the massive environmental impact of training these giant AI models. The computational power required is just enormous, and it leads to this huge carbon footprint that contributes to climate change.
So the very technology that's supposed to, save us from climate change is actually making the problem worse.
It's a pretty stark irony, isn't it? And then there's the whole issue of data privacy. These AI systems are trained on these massive data sets, often scraped from the internet without people's consent. So your personal information, your online activity could be feeding into these systems.
Without me even knowing it.
Yeah, exactly.
That's kind of creepy.
It is a little creepy,
It feels like we're losing control over our own data. Our own digital lives.
And this loss of control becomes even more concerning when you consider how these AI systems are being anthropomorphized. We're starting to talk about them as if they're sentient beings with their own thoughts and feelings.
I've seen that. People are talking about, AI being conscious or slightly conscious.
And that kind of language is really dangerous. Because it obscures accountability.
How so?
Well, if we start thinking of AI as these independent agents, then it becomes easier to blame the AI for harmful outcomes.
Instead of the humans who created it.
Instead of the humans who designed and deployed it.
So it's like saying, oh, the algorithm did it.
Exactly. And the paper points to a really tragic example of this. The case of a man in Belgium who committed suicide after interacting with an AI chatbot that encouraged him to do so.
Oh my gosh.
That's devastating. The really devastating example of the potential dangers of this hype around AGI, how it can lead people to place too much trust in these systems.
When they're clearly not ready for that kind of responsibility.
Exactly. And that's why this paper's call for a shift in focus is so important. Instead of chasing this kind of nebulous dream of AGI with all of its ethical and societal risks, we need to be asking ourselves, what kind of AI do we actually want to build?
What kind of future are we trying to create with this technology?
Exactly.
Feels like we're at a crossroads, but we need to make some really important choices about the direction of AI development.
And the paper argues that a more responsible and ethical approach to AI would involve focusing on well-defined, well-scoped systems that are designed to address specific needs.
So instead of trying to build this godlike AI that can do everything, we should be focusing on creating these specialized tools that can help us in specific areas.
Think about it like this. In traditional engineering fields, like building bridges or designing airplanes, There are strict safety protocols and regulations in place.
Okay.
We wouldn't dream of building a bridge without knowing what kind of weight it needs to support.
Right, or even where it's supposed to go.
Exactly.
But with AI, it feels like we're just kind of throwing things to the wall and seeing what sticks.
Yeah.
Without really considering the consequences.
And that's incredibly dangerous.
Yeah.
Because we're dealing with technologies that have the potential to fundamentally reshape society.
Yeah, for sure.
The paper argues that we need to approach AI development with the same level of rigor and caution that we apply to other fields where human safety is at stake.
So what would that look like in practice? What kind of concrete steps can we take to ensure that AI is developed and used in a responsible and ethical way?
Well, I think one of the key things is we need more transparency and accountability.
Okay.
You know, right now, a lot of AI development happens behind closed doors in these big tech companies with very little public oversight.
So we need to like pull back the curtain and shed some light on what's actually going on.
We need to be asking tough questions about the data these systems are being trained on, the biases they might be perpetuating, the potential harms they could cause. And that means demanding more transparency from the companies developing these systems.
Yeah, and I also think we need to change the way we talk about AI. I think we've been so bombarded with all this hype about superintelligence and, you know,
AI taking over the world.
That it's easy to forget that these systems are ultimately just tools created by humans for human purposes.
That's such an important point.
Yeah.
We need to demystify AI. Stop treating it as this like magical force that's beyond our control.
Yeah, and I think that means focusing on the human side of the equation.
Exactly.
You know, like who's building these systems? Whose interests are they serving? And who's being left out of the conversation?
Those are the questions we need to be asking.
Yeah, it's like we need to reclaim the narrative around AI instead of letting this, you know, fear of an AI apocalypse dictate the direction of development. We need to start thinking about how we can use this technology to solve real-world problems and create a more just and equitable future.
I completely agree, and that's where this paper's call for a shift in focus becomes really powerful. You know, instead of chasing this undefined dream of AGI, we should be investing in well-scoped, well-defined AI systems that are designed to address specific needs.
So instead of trying to build a machine that can do everything, we should be focusing on creating tools that can help us with specific tasks.
Exactly. Think about it like this. Instead of trying to create a robot doctor that can diagnose any illness, we could focus on developing AI-powered tools that can assist human doctors with specific tasks, like analyzing medical images or identifying potential drug interactions.
That makes a lot more sense.
It's a much more grounded and practical approach, I think.
It's about using this technology to augment human capabilities. Not replace them altogether.
Exactly. And by focusing on these specific applications, we can also be much more intentional about addressing the ethical implications of AI. For example, if we're developing an AI system to help with hiring decisions, we can build in safeguards to make sure it doesn't perpetuate existing biases based on race, gender, or socioeconomic status.
So it's about being proactive. Anticipating potential harms. And designing systems that are fair, equitable, and accountable.
Exactly. And it's about recognizing that the future of AI isn't predetermined. It's a choice that we make collectively as a society.
So where do we go from here? Like, what can everyday people, like our listeners, do to help shape the future of AI in a positive direction?
I think there's a lot we can do. We can start by educating ourselves about AI, understanding how it works, learning about the potential benefits and risks.
Knowledge is power.
Exactly.
The more we understand about this technology, the better equipped we'll be to engage in these conversations about its development and use.
And we can also support organizations that are working on ethical and responsible AI development. There are a lot of great groups out there who are advocating for transparency, accountability, and human-centered design.
And we can make our voices heard We can contact our elected officials.
Absolutely.
Sign petitions.
Yeah.
Participate in public forums to demand that AI is developed in a way that benefits all of humanity.
Exactly.
Not just a select few.
It's about recognizing that we all have a stake in this conversation. Yeah. The future of AI is not something that's going to be decided for us.
Right.
It's something that we need to actively shape and participate in.
This has been a really insightful deep dive.
Yeah, it has.
We've covered a lot of ground today, from the historical roots of AGI to the potential benefits and risks of this really powerful technology.
What stands out to me is that despite all the hype and the fear, the future of AI is ultimately in our hands.
Right.
It's a choice that we make, individually and collectively.
So for all you deep divers out there, the next time you hear someone talking about AI, whether it's about, super intelligence or self-driving cars, remember to ask those critical questions.
Yes.
Who's building it? Who benefits?
Yeah.
And what are the potential consequences?
The future of AI is too important to be left to chance.
Right.
It's time for all of us to get involved and ensure that this technology is used for good in the world.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into the world of AGI.
It's been a pleasure.
Until next time, keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep diving deep.